Hi, everybody. So today it's so fun. I'm finally getting to do one of these live streams again. It's been it's been probably 3 weeks since I did the last one of what I've been watching stage and screen. I'm a professional film and theater critic, and so that's a special perspective that I can provide. I see tons of particularly regional theater. And I also see pretty much every new release that comes out as far as films, so I can give you the perspective of both. And it's been an interesting August. I mean, for how mixed I was on a lot of cinema this year, I surprisingly was pretty positive of what I saw in August, which August is usually a bad month. So go figure. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I was overall pretty positive on what I've seen recently at the cinema. So I'm curious for your thoughts and what you think of these different films and different theater. So let's dive in. Let's talk about it. And I have the super chat open. I have the chat open, and so you can comment on there. And first up, let's talk about movies. So to start out, since my last live stream, it started out with Alien Romulus. And this was interesting because the first time I saw it was at a critic screening, but it was at one of our IMAXs here. And the IMAXs here in Utah are almost all very iffy. I don't, it's like, especially since you have to pay more for the IMAX experience, the sound is usually off, the sound is bad, and it's just not the great experience that you're hoping for at an IMAX. And that was definitely the case here. There was a huge problem with the sound mix. Everything was off. The music was really loud and it was coming from. It was sometimes hard to hear what the characters were saying, and I know that some of that was by design. That was this new bizarre way of sound mix where they don't want to do ADR and they don't want to make the it's from Nolan. I hate it. But it was particularly bad at this particular IMAX, and because it was malfunctioning, it wasn't working, and at first I thought I was the only one that was being bothered by this because it didn't seem like anybody was like any of the other critics were saying anything, and so I thought maybe it's just me. But then once the movie was over, everybody else was like, yeah, that was bad. That was really bad. And so I didn't feel like I could give it an honest review until I had seen it the way the director intended. And so I ended up seeing it twice in the theater. I went at the Cinemark, the Dolby. It was an IMAX, but it's a huge screen and a great sound, the best that you could ask for there at the XD screen at the Cinemark. And I wish they did the screenings there, not at the IMAX or at the Megaplex, but anyway, I went to the Cinemark and it was way better than the first experience, but it still was annoying. It had not very great sound mix, but whatever, that's the trend. Um, but I still overall enjoyed the film. I thought it was fun. I had some really good like jump scares and some great environment, and it was just overall it didn't feel bloated. It didn't feel overlong. It was just I thought a fun time, and I thought that it would be more popular than it is. I think it's done okay, but I don't know. It just seemed like a real crowd pleaser to me that a lot of people would really enjoy. And so we have, it sounds like you have terrible IMAX because it sounded good at my location. Usually I trust IMAX partially because how good the sound is. I'm glad you had Cinemark as a backup. Yeah, I mean, I always try to be fair. I always try to give the movie its best shot, and so I did the best that I could. I really did. I know that this month is going to be great for the movies. Transformers 1, which I'm hearing is fantastic, and Wild Robot, which I'm hearing that movie is also sweet. I'm going to see them in IMAX. I am so hyped for both those movies too. I agree. The first trailer for Transformers, I was like, ugh, I didn't like it. It didn't look very good to me. But every trailer since has been much better. And the initial, I think they did a screening at Comic Con or is like that has all been really positive. So I'm really looking forward to it. And then a Wild Robot, I've just been nothing but hyped. So we'll see. But I'm really looking forward to it too. I agree. So yeah, that should be good. So yeah, and our IMAX is just repeatedly not great. It's just not. It's just not. Um, he said, Critic says, Alien Romulus has made over 289 million worldwide, which I believe is pretty good for a franchise that hasn't had a hit movie in over years. Fair enough. I don't know. I just thought that it would be even bigger for whatever reason. It just seemed like a real crowd pleaser to me, where the previous ones had been more philosophical and more heady, and he's just not as like crowd pleasing. So with like Covenant and Prometheus and things like that. So, but not like flop by any means. But it's it's just things. There's so many movies made now that movies don't have like the time to sort of grow and build a following as much now as they used to. When you just wouldn't have as many, and so it's like people are moving on to the next one, even if they enjoyed something else. So then I saw Kneecap, and it's in English, but just barely. It's in this Irish. It's about this Irish rap band, and they have to have subtitles because you wouldn't even believe that it's English. but I would say for non-actors playing these roles, these band members, they do a pretty good job. And overall, it's entertaining. It's very like loud, like I assume their music is. They don't really give you much time to sort of breathe through the characters. So that can be a lot. But Michael Fassbender's so good playing one of the dads. If it were up to me, he would be in the running for supporting actor. He was great, and the ending I thought was really good. So overall, I enjoyed Kneecap. I thought it was a pretty good little movie. And then let's see here, my comment. The 45-day window has been extremely damaging to movie that aren't franchise films, and has even been damaging to some of those. I agree. Okay, then I saw Coraline in the theater, and I absolutely love Coraline. I think it is one of the masterpieces of animation. I absolutely love the stop motion. I love the story. I love Coraline as a character. I just think she is just so special in the fact that she isn't really swindled by the button eyes for long. She sees right through it pretty quick. And I always think it's very impressive when a character has to fight for something that's flawed. It's easier to fight for something that's heroic and wonderful and everything, idealistic. But her parents are pretty terrible, and yet she has to fight for them, and I really love that. And she immediately sees the difference between this fake version of her dream life and what is actual, like, and what is reality. So I just love her character. I love the animation. I love that it's like a great gateway to horror and a way to introduce kids to a lot of those themes, but not too scary. I just think it's a real nice little movie, and I'm so happy that this re-release did so well. I mean, it did better than new feature films like The Crow or Borderlands and things like that. So I was really, really pleased about that. That made me very happy. I've got lots of comments. Thanks so much. This is fun. Jeremiah says, of everything in theaters right now, I'm most interested in just rewatching Coraline. I'd a million times rather than just suffer through it as with us. Yeah, fair. Me too. And there's this, why the heck was Despicable Me 4 put on Peacock when the movie was still in the top 5 box office? Yeah, that's a mystery. I mean, but how much money that movie made? I mean, the thing, of course, you expect a Despicable movie to make a lot of money. That's not a surprise, but like, it just felt like nobody was talking about it, and nobody was like, even amongst my like non-film Twitter like friends on Facebook and stuff, like, just seemed like nobody was sort of talking about seeing it with their friends, or because at least the last one you kind of had that weird like people in suits thing, and you had like there was some sort of social media discussion about the last Minions movie. This one, it just seemed like there was just nothing, and it still managed to make over $900 million. Unbelievable. Coraline, her parents are terrible. She's terrible. Everyone but the cat is terrible. No wonder we love this movie. I don't, you need to elaborate why she's terrible, because I think she's actually really great. So I don't know what you mean there. But anyway, so I loved the fact that that did so well in this re-release, and I just love that movie. It's one of my favorites. So, okay, then I saw Borderlands, and the most like significant thing about seeing Borderlands is that I finally went to this new movie theater. It's been around for 2 years, but I finally went and saw it. Where I finally went to see something at it. It's called Fat Cats, and it was really great. I definitely be going there again. And for $15, you get your ticket, plus you get a $10 card to use at their arcade, which I think is pretty great. And like I got tons of time with that $10, and so you get, like if I had kids and stuff, I would be there all the time. That's a great deal. And they have like a full menu and grill. I was just super impressed with that. I was like, why did it take me 2 years to finally visit this place? Because I'm usually going to screenings and stuff, and so I don't get to pick, where I see the movie. So I finally got to see it, and I mean, I finally got to see something there. But of course, it was Borderlands, which was so frustrating. I've never played the game. I'm not a gamer at all. So I can't speak to it on that level, but it just felt like there was no story. It was like one scene after another scene after another scene, but nothing, no like narrative. Like she's supposed to find this girl. She's hired, Kate Blanchett is hired to find this girl. She finds her like very fast, and then there's just like no story. It was bizarre, and you just think all these resources, all this money in that they forgot the most important part. The script is crazy. So she's a bit of a brat herself, but that's fine because that's why we relate to her. Actually, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that she's that bratty. I mean, she's pretty, like, her parents are terrible in not taking care of her and not treating her very kindly. But I would say she doesn't really complain that much for how bad she's treated. I don't know. I don't think she's that bratty. I really don't. But anyway, we love her, so we can agree there for sure. Okay. Yeah, Borderlands was absolutely terrible, and it was just, but it wasn't even like something that like offended me or made me mad. It was just nothing. It had no story. I can't overstate. It was just crazy to me. Borderlands is the worst film I've seen so far this year. One of the few times the visuals people on IMAX actually heard the movie. There, I can see that. Okay, then I saw Skincare, and I was really torn on this movie because I do think it captures like Hollywood and LA, that whole scene, like really well. And there were some parts that were pretty scary because it's about this woman who does this skincare thing, and this person moves across from her also doing it, and so then she starts getting stalked, which is like a personal like fear of mine, of like both internet and in-person stalking. So that was like, ooh, that was scary to me. But I don't think the script was quite there on this. Like there wasn't really a sense of catharsis or any kind of like, it just was, I think, too predictable and not like satisfying enough for her character or for anything. It was just kind of, it just didn't quite come together, but there were elements that I admired in it and that I liked. So then I saw The Crow, and I think I'm the only critic in America who enjoyed it. It's not great. It's not like I get it. All the criticisms are totally valid. It takes forever for him to get to be the Crow, and the action is anything involving the afterlife and the way they do that, and the script drags. All totally valid critiques. You're correct. I guess what worked for me is the underlying romance, I did think the two actors had like a real nice chemistry together. And I kind of bought that he would be so compelled to like find her and help her. And I'm a romantic at heart, so that part of it like worked for me. And then I actually thought when they did have action, there's too little of it, but it was actually pretty fun. Particularly this whole scene at the opera was bloody and crazy and pretty fun. And like again, not great. I'd probably give it like a C, just like a passing grade, but it was enough to, I thought, be like entertaining. It's no masterpiece, but yeah. I had enough fun with it. So there we go. Let's see here. I think Coraline is lovely, determined, ultimately very brave. She complained at the beginning, but things were so stressful and nasty. Can you blame her? Yeah, I mean, I think like I would have complained a lot more if my parents weren't paying any attention to me and making like horrible food and not making me move to this new house and then like pretending like you don't even exist. I don't know. I get her. Okay, then I saw Strange Darling, and this is actually a really good movie. It is pretty violent. It's definitely an R rating, but it's very unpredictable. It's very surprising, and so I don't want to say much about it because really, it is one of those movies that the spoilers would kind of hurt it. Like usually, I'm not somebody who gets all worried too much about spoilers, but this one is one that the experience is more fun if you don't know much about it. But the performances are really good. It kind of turns the whole sort of serial killer slasher on its head, and it's kind of an interesting movie. Again, I can't really say that much, but what it kind of does with final girls and with kind of feminist girl boss kind of characters, it sort of subverts a lot of the narratives we see a lot. So if you're up for something that's a little violent, that's R-rated, it's I think a film that's worth taking a chance on for sure. And normally I hate nonlinear storytelling, and normally that doesn't work for me. But in this case, because it added to the unpredictability, I think it actually worked real well. So it's one of the highlights of the summer, I think, for sure. Then I saw Beetlejuice, the original, in the theater. And it was the first time going to this theater I've heard a lot about called Broovies here in Salt Lake. And it's kind of, they're trying to do like the Alamo Draft House kind of thing, but instead of having individual servers like they do at Alamo Draft House come to you when you're sitting, they have this line. And I can't complain too much because the screening was free. But I probably won't be itching to go back there for a paid screening because I didn't end up getting any food because the line was so long, and the projection was bad. They cut off the top and the bottom. And that's another thing with the IMAX, like for Beetlejuice, the projection was bad for that too. I'm telling you, our local IMAXs suck. It's a problem. It's a big problem. But anyway, as far as Beetlejuice, the original, I think it holds up pretty well. Like I am pretty tough on 80s comedies. A lot of the classics have not really worked for me. I didn't like Beverly Hills Cop. I didn't like Lethal Weapon. I didn't like the first Vacation movie. I don't know, just a lot of those that I've come to revisit, I haven't been a big fan of. And so revisiting this, I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was pretty funny. It has good atmosphere. And one of the big surprises is how little Beetlejuice is really in the movie, because he's not introduced till about 45, 50 minutes into the film. And then even then, it's kind of intermixed in after that. And he's such like a harsh character. He's funny, but he's pretty vulgar and he's pretty, and so I think that was very smart to not use him too much. And that's the thing I've always admired about 101 Dalmatians is that Cruella really isn't in the movie that much. She comes in, she makes a big impact, and then Jasper and Horace are with the puppies for most of the movie. And I think that's very, very effective when a movie knows how much to use of their villain. And Beetlejuice is, I don't know if he's kind of an anti-hero villain, like kind of a funny villain, I guess you might say. So let's see here. When you're back in SoCal, Katie and I will take you to Great IMAX. Okay, this is a deal. This is a deal. I might actually be there in October. I want to go to Animations Film, but I have not heard anything about their press. I've tried everything to get in contact with them, and I don't know what's going on with Animations Film. But since I didn't get into New York Film Festival, which was so disappointing, I might go to Animations Film. So the other side of which is in Los Angeles. So I will let you know. Okay, Beetlejuice is only on screen for 17 minutes. Okay, yeah, which is interesting, I think. Michael Keaton was only on set for roughly a week and a half. Okay, yeah, cool. That's good. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny, especially like anytime they were making fun of Delia's art. That made me laugh. Okay, then I saw Fly on IMAX. This was a documentary, so like it worked better on the IMAX. It wasn't like as reliant for the sound and for the some other things. So this was like a decent IMAX screening, but it's a little too long. But it is pretty cool to see these people that base jump, and yeah, it had some cool visuals, and it definitely didn't glamorize it at all. Like it shows like people die, people get very injured. So it was overall, I think, a pretty good documentary. And then last thing that I saw since my last live stream was Beetlejuice. And I think that they did a pretty good job with this movie. I was happy with it. I was worried, okay, they're going to have Beetlejuice tons in this movie. They won't take the lesson from the first one. But actually, yeah, he's not in it that much. I was pleasantly surprised by that. I was surprised how funny it was. Catherine O'Hara, Delia is so funny. And I thought they did some creative things with because they obviously Jeffrey Jones won't be in a movie like this, of course, with his behavior. And so what they did to kind of for that was creative. I won't give it away, but it was creative. Overall, it's a little messy. Like they don't do anything with the Monica Bellucci character. That's a total waste. But overall, the atmosphere, the feel, the comedy, the family story, the heart, kind of talking about loss and grief and everything. I had fun with it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. So for that kind of long-awaited comedy sequel, I would say it's one of the better ones. And certainly the best from Tim Burton in a while. That's for sure. Probably since Sweeney Todd, probably his best since there. I don't know. Or Frankenweenie. It's been a while. So that is what I saw on the cinema. And then on the stage, let's see here. So on the stage, I saw at Terrace Plaza, I saw Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. And this was the first time that I saw Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, the musical. And I was really not enjoying it for the first act. I thought it just wasn't that funny. And a lot of the jokes were the one guy pretending to be disabled and like, look how funny it is. And it was just like that got old real quick. But then the second act I thought was much better. The songs were much better. It was much funnier. They kind of dropped that whole thing with the disabled. And there was this side relationship between I think it's Muriel and I don't know, the side relationship between the heiress and the maitre d' at the hotel. That was my favorite part, and the two actors were really good. And so overall, I left feeling pretty happy about it, and it was so funny because I was sitting next to these like 6 older women that were hilarious, and they were so funny, and they were like, "When you get to be older, you'll understand." And I told them I was 43, and they were like. They were like affronted. They couldn't believe it. They were like, no, you're not 43. They thought that I was 20, that I was 28. I'm like, oh, it was funny. Let's see here. We got some. So they handled the father very well considering the actor they were dealing with. Yeah, it was creative. It was funny. It was very good. And then Beetlejuice's ex-wife could have been cut. She only seemed there to pay homage to Ingmar Bergman. Now I didn't even think of that, but yeah, it was totally unnecessary. It was like Monica Bellucci needed a favor from Tim Burton. needed a paycheck or something, because it didn't seem to make much sense to have her in the movie at all to me. Okay, then I saw on the stage, I saw Bandstand, and this was the first time I'd ever seen Bandstand. It was really cool because this is the Do Good Theater Company. I have a review on UTBA, but this was really cool because it was these three friends, young friends. They were both looked like they were like 20, that are starting this new theater company. They're doing Bandstand, which had never been done in Utah before, and it just had that like energy of these three young people putting it on. And like the director of choreography, the whatever. And I had never seen Bandstand, and I was so impressed with it. And then I watched the pro shot with Laura Osnes, and that's great too. I think it's a very underrated show. I thought that the music was really beautiful, and it's one of those shows. I love Broadway shows where you get like a little bit of humor, a little bit of heart, a little bit of emotion. Like it kind of gives you everything. That's why I love Bright Star so much. I love the songs, but in this, I felt like it had that. It kind of had a little bit of everything. It was a moving story, and it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, so I really did enjoy it. Then I saw Arsenic and Old Lace. This was at Hale Center Theater Orem, and Arsenic and Old Lace is just a classic for a reason. If you ever get a chance to see it, it's super funny, and of course the Frank Capra film with Cary Grant is a classic and very funny, and so you know these actors who were in this production I had seen previously in other versions of Arsenic and Lace, so they're like veterans. They knew exactly what to do for these roles, particularly the two women, the sisters. So that was very fun, very fun. Let's see here. I watched Freddie Got Fingered with Ryan for an online watch party. So whatever I see this year from here on, the quality can only go up. That movie's beyond disgusting trash. I've never seen it, and I never will. So poor Ryan, why did he make you do that? Then I saw The Secret Garden at Payson Community Theater, and this was a wonderful production, great costumes, a huge ensemble, really talented singers. The Mary was wonderful. I do think that show could probably have a good 20 minutes taken off, and it wouldn't hurt it one bit. That's probably true for most Broadway shows these days. But it has a lot of "Look how great my garden" song. Like I think you could take out almost any song by Dickens in there. They get like the Prancing Around the Moors songs. There's a lot of them. How Great Earth Is. I would cut them, but still, beautiful show, beautiful songs, great cast. It was very entertaining. I love the Arsenic and Lace film. Seeing the live show must have been a delight. It's so fun. I definitely recommend if you ever get a chance to see Arsenic and Lace. It's a classic for a reason. It's a classic for a reason. Freddie Got Fingered is one of the top 5 worst experiences I have. No, gosh. Yeah, I'm not going to watch that film. No. Okay, then I saw Legally Blonde at West Valley Performing Arts, and Legally Blonde is just such a great musical. It is so entertaining. The songs are so good. It's so funny. It's romantic. There's not that many romances really on Broadway that aren't like tragic romances that are a rom-com. You just don't have that many. And I think that Legally Blonde is one of the best screen to stage adaptations. I really do love it. And this was a great production, really wonderful. I loved the cast and the way it was directed. And they managed to make some of the weaker songs really effective, like Gay or European was so good. And the Whip It they did with Jump Ropes, that was very Whipped into Shape, was very clever. So they just elevated it, I think, a lot for a show I already love. So there is a PG-rated cut, though it's 7 minutes long. That's funny. Okay, then I saw The Addams Family at Hale Center Theater. This was very exciting for me because this was the first time that I've been invited as an actual critic outside of UTBA just for my own content to review a show at Hale, and Hale is one of the biggest theaters in this area. And so that was very exciting. Their tickets are like $70 each. So to get asked to review for for one of their shows was very, very exciting for me. Of course, I'm still going to view it objectively. And it's really, really good production of Addams Family. Wonderful cast. My favorite moment of that show is the song where Gomez sings Happy Sad. I think that's a really sweet number. And the costumes, the sets, the projections were a little hit and miss, but other than that, it was you go see the Addams Family. It was really well done. The gripes I have are just with the show itself. I think, full disclosure, at the end, that whole number is so bad. I hate it. It's so long, and I would take out the Beinecke's, their whole plot. Just have the son there. You don't need the parents. I would take that whole thing out. And so it's a show that has its flaws, but I think this production at Hale was and is very good. So I enjoyed that. Happy Sad is such a beautiful song. Yeah, it's definitely my favorite of that show. It really is. So then Fiddler on the Roof, I saw at the Empress. The Empress is a really cute, small theater that's been around for like over 100 years. They've been doing productions at the Empress, and it's a theater in the round. And their last production, The Little Mermaid, was really bad. And it wasn't just that I don't love that Little Mermaid. It was the choices on the director and it was not good. So you always want to see a company rebound. And they did for this Fiddler on the Roof. It was nights and day, leaps and bounds better than The Little Mermaid. And great, fun ensemble cast, nice costumes. They had a great fiddler that was playing the live music. So that's very enjoyable. It was great. Particularly Seitel was really good. There's some little things, like sometimes they sort of overacted certain scenes and they could kind of pull back and be a little more subtle and a little, but considering it's an amateur production, I think that it was very good. And if you're in the area, I would recommend it. Then I saw The Drowsy Chaperone at the Grand. And the Grand, I do not understand, because they charge $35 for their tickets, which is a lot. And they have this huge auditorium. And I just feel like if they charged a little bit less, they would be able to fill up more seats. But as it is, even if they have a pretty good sale, because it's $35, it just feels really sparse whenever you go there. And so I don't really understand that. I'm sure they have their reasons, but I don't really get it. But Drowsy Chaperone is always a good time. It's very funny. I think they could have used, because it's this huge stage, they could have used the apartment more. Like in the Broadway production, which I was able to see the preview of, which is fun. I saw it in 2006. I've seen it many, many, many times. But they had like people coming out of the ironing boards, out of the oven, out of the apartment. And this pretty much, they all just came through the door, and there was like one scene where people come out of, like a couple of people through the fridge and things like that. But they could have done more with that, and that would have been fun. But it's just a funny show. It's an enjoyable show. It's one I'll always check out if I get a chance. And the talent was very good. They get at the Grand. That's probably where they're spending their $35, because they do get very, very good singers at the Grand. So that's still playing if you have a chance to see it. And that's it. That's the last show that I saw. Tonight or tomorrow, I'm going to see Santino Fontana in a concert here, which I'm really looking forward to. That should be a lot of fun, and I really enjoy him, and it'll be fun to see him perform. I mean, I've never seen him live, so that will be enjoyable. So, yeah, looking forward to that. And so probably my favorite of the theater that I saw probably was Bandstand. That's my favorite of the ones I just talked about. That was such a good production. And that the 11 o'clock hours number that she sings, Welcome Home, I think is what it is. Oh, that actress nailed it. It was so good. So that was probably the best. As far as movies, of the ones I talked about, I did also see the Reagan movie. I had a screener for that, so I didn't have to go to the theater. And it's the problem was it was just too long. It was like serviceable, like for that kind of like. I think there's a place for that kind of heroic, you know, rosy colored biopic kind of a thing, but it was just too long, and they had like the whole setup with the Russian John Voight like telling the story. Like you didn't need any of that. It just could have been so much tighter, and then I think it would have been a lot better. So there we go. That is everything. And so I think that as far as movies, my favorite of the ones we talked about, Coraline was my favorite. And then probably Strange Darling, I think, was probably my other favorite. So yeah, let me know what you think of all these things. Thanks so much for the great comments and the discussion. It was a lot of fun. And check out the Patreon. It's the biggest way you can support me, and you can get to be part of our patron group. And we have, it's going to be really cool. This month, we have Chrissy Miller, who is the head of programming at Up TV. She's going to come on for Q&A for the patrons, and you get to ask questions about what goes into deciding programming. And it's going to be really cool experience to see the behind the scenes. And that's the kind of thing we give for our patrons, and also bonus content. And it's just a really, I try to make it as big a bang for your buck as I possibly can. And then also have the merch store. We got some fall designs that are a lot of fun, so check that out. And you can also get hashtag Animation Junkie shirts. So take a look at that. And thanks so much, everybody. Hope you're having a great September. We'll talk to you later. Bye.